Now, just before the break here, thank you, some changing subjects, we were talking about New York politicos, some people either with second acts or even some rising stars. Now, a few years ago, this guy right here, Bernard Kerik, former head of the NYPD, you would have thought this guy would have been with a bullet shooting to the top of that list here. But then came one of the biggest stunning falls from grace. Released today, though, was Kerik after serving more than 3 years in federal prison for wire fraud, mail fraud, as well as lying to the IRS. Kerik will likely spend the rest of his term under home confinement. And Dominic, for those who forget, this guy, I mean, give his short bio here, from corrections to running the PD to then being the Homeland Security nominee, and then it all came crashing down. And I know you've been keeping in some contact with him.
Well, full disclosure, while he's been serving federal time, and I'm proud to say it, but I won't go into the contents of it, but we've exchanged about 5 or 6 letters.
Oh, we didn't know this.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem saying that.
Did
but
you visit him?
Because we all fall down.
No, I have no problem with that. But did you go see him?
Wait, let me get back to the point, to the issue at hand.
We didn't know that.
He volunteered as Rudy Giuliani's driver during Giuliani's campaign for mayor. Rudy gets elected. He becomes city correction commissioner, rising star, takes off. Becomes the police commissioner, has a jail named after him, in which they removed his name. But he took off, and then he had the incident with the feds lying to the FBI, I believe, and then it was all downhill.
If you're going to believe in forgiveness for the athletic director of Rutgers or for a congressman from Brooklyn, then you got to apply the same standard to Bernie Kerik and even Rudy Giuliani. So if he wants to come back and be productive and have a role in public life, more power to him. The difference between me and these Republicans is I'd say that about a 16-year-old car thief. Republicans only think it applies to their friends. So God bless him. I hope he recovers, and I hope he has a chance to perform some service.
I have no idea what the hell that means. But the guy who steals my car wanted him to go to jail for a year, and Kerik did his time. And so, just like Anthony Weiner. The only problem I have with Anthony Weiner is that's between him and his wife. Politically speaking, the only thing I've ever said is the only thing I've ever said is that he should run for he should run for advocate. Just like now Kerik gets out of jail, he shouldn't go run for mayor of New York City next year. He should go and get
Let me come
involved
back to Kerik for 1 second, though, Dom, because you spoke to him. Did he fully get just how bad, not just what he went to jail for, but even like using the apartment that was set aside for the 9/11 victims when he was doing the affairs and all that stuff?
We never discussed those things. My only advice to him was to hold his head high and to live to fight another day.
He looks good, though. He looks like
have
he's in
a
shape.
sense of remorse?
I got the impression, again, I'm not going to go into the private contents, but we didn't discuss those things. My thing, he was treated horribly in prison. I'll tell you that much.
Was he really?
And
he was in a federal pen. I thought they play ping pong every day. I didn't know that you get treated bad.
No, he didn't play ping pong. The one thing I will say is that he felt that it was unfair that he was surrounded by terrorists every day that he was in federal prison. And so, the man did his time. Hold your head high.
Can you get us over to the house for dinner? We'll go over and see him. I'd like to see him.
Let me switch gears. Now, you guys saw this story, but I think to me it raised a couple of interesting questions, and our producer came up with one of them today, which was, you probably know about that Oregon teenager accused of plotting to blow up his school. 17-year-old Grant Acord. He's going to be charged as an adult with attempted aggravated murder. Now, investigators say they believe that the kid modeled his attack after Columbine school shootings, but allegedly planned an ambush designed to take even more lives. He specifically referenced some of the worst school tragedies here and trying to, in many ways, even outdo them. Police say they found the weapons he planned to use hidden under floorboards in his home. Everything from pipe bombs, bombs made from drain cleaners, etc. here.
So I'd lock him up for 50 years. Richard, you let him go tomorrow morning, right?
Guys, I'm bringing this back to the question, though, of 17-year-old. Adult?
Yes, absolutely. When I was 17, I knew what the hell I was doing.
15?
What happened?
15. Listen, I still think that you're 15 years of age. You know.
13?
Listen, I think a 13-year-old kid, you don't lock him up for 70 years, but I think that you got to make sure that he goes to.
So we don't have
therapy,
any principle difference. We just have a difference about where and what the age limit is.
Yeah.
It's a hard line to draw.
It's a very hard line.
The great religious traditions and the great leaders we honor every 7 days tell us about forgiveness and redemption and visiting prisoners the new Pope has made an effort to do that. We need to be safe. We need to be secure from people who could hurt us. We need to punish where crimes are committed, and we need to redeem people. And we probably could do all of those things. We've given up on the last.
Yeah, it's hard though, that line. How different is an 18-year-old from a 17-year-old, and then you get 16, 15, and then that line's fudged. But the second question I have is today, coincidentally, my youngest, his school was evacuated. There was a bomb threat. Turned out not to be anything, but it was a phone call that came in credible enough that they evacuated and moved them all out. In the news, they reported. With what this kid said, the kid in Oregon who intentionally drew upon what happened in Columbine and other places, that line, and I'm going to profess to not be smart enough to know exactly where it should start and stop, the media's job of both informing and then in some ways, if not inflaming folks out there who attempt to copycat and the rest. Is there too much? And after Newtown, this conversation came up when they talked so much about this and people saying, you keep talking about it, there'll be another school shooting, and while I don't agree with that, where is that line? And I hear it a lot. Let me just tell you, when I'm outside of this, you too, I'm sure, Dominic.
In a free society, you cannot start
No,
making
I'm not
those
saying there should be a
judgments.
law. It should be a judgment call, but where should that judgment...
In a free society, that you cannot have a rule even. You can have a personal standard, which you should live by, or the Doherty standard, which is talk about everything, every time, the top of your lungs. In a democracy,
Quiet
in
as a
America,
church mouse right here, yeah.
Because you didn't do that in Albany. People had the Brodsky earplugs when you were there.
No further questions. Having said that,
Yeah.
This is not ripe for anything but in an open society, as much as regrettable behaviors occur in the press and in commentators. It's
Yeah,
it's a price you pay.
Do you ever wonder about where the copycat...
No, because I think Richard's correct, is that we live in a free society. We have bloggers, we have the internet. I mean, at some point we're talking about everything now, and it's always going to get out there. And I think he's right, though. You have to have personal standards. You're not going to change society by, reporting that today there was a bomb scare at X school. I think the public needs to know that, because I think the public needs to be more vigilant to keep looking out for these possible, then that's how we'll find bad people.
What do you think, though?
I agree with everything that's been said, but I don't know how you would start to enforce that of not reporting it. What happens the one time you don't report it and something happens? It's a slippery slope all the way around the board.
Okay. When we come back, obviously with Memorial Day right behind us here, there were a couple really interesting pieces, and I'll share them with you after the break here, about it's one thing to recognize the fall in this country, but what about not just patriotism, but also some form of communal commitment to our country? And some say a lot of that went away when the draft went away. Would it be good for our national character if not only that or some form of mandatory national service came back? We'll talk about that after this.